because I am not leading a song at all. And Charlie, you'll have the pledge, and Doug Green's going to pray for us.
God bless America.
All right.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
You could have led that. What are you talking about?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's great. Heavenly Father, as we come together as Kiwanis, and we are getting ready to celebrate over 100 years of serving you with the Cleveland Bradley community. Thank you for the opportunity to do that. And we thank you for the lives that have been changed as a result of that. We thank you for the way you have blessed us love members here. Ask that you continue to be with us here this time. We thank you for these that are with us today speaking, that are willing to put themselves out in positions of leadership in our community. We're grateful for that. We wouldn't all do that. Thank you for the food and the dedication of those who prepare for this every week. Just for your blessing on our love in Christ that gives us.
Amen. Thank you, Doug. We're glad to have Doug back after a successful knee replacement. He's walking much better, going through rehab now. So let's start off, if we could, with a round of applause, please. Oh, thank you. No, I'm just kidding. I've had the pleasure of working the past several weeks with a committee to put together our 100-plus anniversary, which is coming up August the 2nd at Westmore Church of God. We are so grateful to have the opportunity to celebrate our mission. And Bubba and Kay Smith, Charlie Cogdell, Alan Winter, Hugh Walker, and I don't want any credit, were terrific. They have put together this, and Paul Walters, our Lieutenant Governor, lest I forget, put together a program that's tremendous. It's going to be really a great program. Rick Honeycutt is our keynote speaker, and our club secretary, Lydia Hollis, is our entertainment, her and her band. She's also the runner-up for Miss Tennessee. And we're pleased to have that as well, so we're glad. We are cutting our ticket sales off at 210. That's a sold-out number. We're right now at 198, so we're very close. And if you guys have not purchased a ticket yet, please do so. Raj Patel is creating the meal for us. It should be excellent. The doors open at 6 o'clock. We've got a silent auction. And our nonprofit organizations, I think 4 or 5 of them, maybe 5 or 6, are going to be there displaying their items and their organization and what they do for our community. So we're very pleased to have them as well. Make sure I don't have anything else before I let Richard have the table. No, I think we're good. Richard, are you ready?
I am. Thank you, Chuck.
Yes, sir.
Our program today is 3 of the candidates for the 24th District State House of Representatives that will be decided by the voters next Thursday, August the 4th. Kevin Raper, Rex Wagner, and Troy Weathers. Kevin Raper is a graduate of the University of Tennessee with a degree in mathematics, Tusculum College with a master's in education, and Tennessee Tech University with a degree in leadership and administration. He has lived in Cleveland since 1990, where he's been an educator for over 35 years. He taught math and coached at Bradley High School, was a principal of North Lee, and was formerly a teacher and a coach at Walker Valley High School. Kevin is currently serving as County Commissioner for the 7th District of Bradley County, where he has served on numerous committees. He is married and has 2 adult sons. Rex Wagner was born, raised, and educated in the 24th District. He graduated from the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga with a degree in criminal justice. He received a law degree from Cumberland School of Law at Sanford in Birmingham, Alabama, after working at Bowaters for 10 years. Rex is a local attorney with a civil law practice for more than 25 years. He has been an active supporter of the Cleveland State Community College Foundation and the Boy Scouts of America, and completed a Leadership Cleveland program at the Cleveland-Bradley Chamber of Commerce. He works with his wife, who's also an attorney, and he has a son in college. Troy Weathers was born and raised in Cleveland. He graduated from Bradley County High School. He is a veteran of the United States Army, where he was trained as a mechanic. Troy returned to Cleveland, where he opened a small business, and then was hired by a wholesale supply company, where he spent over 30 years, retiring in 2020 as Vice President of Distribution. Troy was elected to the Bradley County School Board 5 times, served as chairman for much of that tenure. Troy and his wife, who is an educator, have 3 adult daughters. If we could give a warm Kiwanis welcome to Kevin Raper, Rex Wagner, and Troy Weathers. Kevin, you'll be allowed to go first.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the Kiwanis Club and WCLE for your coverage of this. Both are staples of the community, have done numbers and numbers of things, and we're blessed to have them in Cleveland. I'm a very blessed individual. I have 2 wonderful sons, Negan and Manning, who are both products of our local school system. My wife, Lori, she's a product of the local schools, and she went to Lee University as well. She lived in Cleveland her entire life. She's the daughter of Emery and Ruby Bryant, who own the Rebel Drive-In. She has spent 37 years in education, still going. And another tidbit of information is her great-grandfather was W.F. Bryant, which founded Fields of the Woods. I grew up in Englewood, Tennessee, and both of my parents were lifelong educators, retired. My dad is deceased. He passed away about 1.5 years ago. After graduating from high school, I attended UT in Knoxville, and I was a football manager there, and I obtained a degree in mathematics. A little bit of this, I'm going to be redundant with what Richard said. Also, later in life, I earned a master's in education and an EDS in leadership. I am most blessed by the fact that I have been a 26-year member of First Baptist Church and the serve a risen Savior in Jesus Christ. I have 3 focuses in my platform, but of course I'm receptive to others. First, I will support educators. It's been my whole life, all the way back to I can first remember. Teachers feel disconnected. They feel like they have no voice. And those creating and enforcing laws have never been in the classroom. My dad always said you cannot relate to being a classroom teacher until you've been there. Hearsay, being a former student, does not equate to real life experiences. You must experience the rigors of being a classroom teacher while dealing with the behaviors of unruly students. Not only will I support our educators, but I will support the parents, and they are the child's first teacher, and most importantly, they're the foundation of education. Also, parents deserve alternatives to where they send their children. They're the only ones who are truly qualified to make those decisions. Locally, we have 2 great schools, and alternatives here are not needed near as much as they are in other places in the state of Tennessee where public education is really not a viable option. You hear a lot about education. The reason why education is such an important topic for legislators is approximately 40% of the state budget goes to education. Secondly, I will preserve our beliefs and values. America is so divided right now. We are being attacked on every front. The beliefs we grew up with seem to no longer exist. Faith, family, responsible finances have been removed from the landscape of America. To assist family and businesses, I will support tax cuts in 2 areas. First, repeal or reduction of the gas tax for a limited time. I know this would have a great impact and a negative impact on the road department since the revenues go to road department, but we could supplement that with the funds, the additional funds that we're going to have due to inflation. Secondly, I'll also support an increased amount of time for the tax-free month on groceries. Thirdly, and I will protect our liberties. The values in the United States Constitution have shifted and changed. Here are some examples. Males competing against females. Use of restrooms, males using women's restrooms. Supporting Second Amendment rights. Safety and welfare and protection of the citizens of the District of 24. I'm going to give you a wish that I would love to do, and I would love to start a petition to send to the federal government if I'm sent to Nashville. I would love to think that our veterans could have lifetime medical expenses paid. I think that that's the least that we could do for them. And especially the protection and rights of an unborn child. Recently, I was honored to be the only candidate in this race to be endorsed by Tennessee Right to Life. My steadfast approach to supporting Right to Life will be unwavering. So, what sets me apart from the other candidates? I've been a resident of District 24 for 32 consecutive years. I did not move in the district to run for office. I'm running for this office because I am a family member of District 24, and I will be your voice. Most of Bradley County can claim a Cleveland address, but not all of them can claim to be in District 24. Next, I am the only candidate to have served on the Bradley County Commission, and I've been on many diverse committees. I am currently serving in District 7 on the Bradley County Commission, which, by the way, is in District 24. These 2 aspects have given me the opportunity to align myself with the belief system of District 24. In conclusion, to emphasize my character, I share with you 30 years of marriage and complete fidelity to my wife, my 26-year membership of First Baptist Church, my reputation and integrity while serving the families as a teacher, coach, and principal for 35 years. I've tried my best to treat them as a daytime parent, and I will take my leadership and commitment, my relentless attitude to compete, my eternal faith in Jesus Christ in Nashville, and will represent you well. I ask you vote for Kevin Raper to be the ambassador of District 24. God bless you.
Well, thank you to the Kiwanis Club for this event. I'm Rex Wagner, candidate for State Representative in District 24. I'm blessed in many ways, especially with a wonderful family. I was born, raised, and educated here in the district, and I've lived here many years, except for a year away at work and at graduate school. I own and operate the Wagner Law Office and have practiced law here representing individuals for over 25 years. A big part of our practice has been representing adults and children with disabilities. I've represented people in all of our courts. I know this community well. I want to serve in this office only for the purpose of giving back to my community that has been so good to me and the community that I love. I use notes when I talk at events, and that's part of how I prepare. If I'm going to go and be your state representative, I promise you I will be prepared and I will be informed. Let me share a few tidbits about the Tennessee House of Representatives. 15% of the members are leaving this year. There are 99 members of the House. Some more may lose in the coming election. There's going to be a big turnover there, and that's going to be a new factor. There are very few lawyers in the legislature. As a result, the quality of legislation is sometimes very poor. Often, time is wasted on bills and laws that are unconstitutional or don't have any chance of becoming law. More legislation is being written by outside groups, special interest groups, and political action committees and just handed to legislators and asked them to sponsor it. I will be looking for unintended consequences in everything that comes across our desk. Stopping bad legislation is just part of the job. I've been listening and talking with voters. People are very concerned about inflation, the increasing price of food and gas and medicine. I purchased a quart of oil recently. It was $12.06. 2 years ago, that quart of oil was about $6. Almost 10% of that price is your sales tax. When the price increases, the taxes we pay increase. Taxes are part of our living expenses. We have to control taxes. We have to control spending. If we don't control taxes and spending, it harms people's ability to pay their bills. I've been a strong economic conservative all my life. The growth of government has to be closely connected to the growth in the economy, or otherwise you end up harming the economy. We're seeing the effects of that in our nation. I've lived in 2 states for a short time. Both of those states, other than Tennessee, they had income taxes. Neither state was better off than Tennessee. In fact, one of them was worse off in a lot of ways. They had more expensive government, but they didn't have better services. And average working people struggle there more than they do in Tennessee. There's been a lot of talk about, in this campaign, about education by myself and the other candidates. I'm dedicated to quality education, but there are a lot of other issues. Tennessee government is large and it's complicated. The Department of Education is only one department out of more than a dozen departments and agencies that the state runs and affects the lives of Tennesseans every day. The Department of Transportation deals with highways and roads. The Department of Health was greatly involved in the COVID situation. There's the Department of Corrections, Department of Economic Development, Department of Insurance and Banking, and there are many others, Department of Agriculture. TennCare is a huge agency, spends vast amounts of money, both state and federal money, that impacts our citizens. A person cannot effectively do this job unless they're going to spend the vast majority of their time on just one issue. The Tennessee state budget is over $52 billion. This money comes from taxpayers, whether you work a job or whether you're retired on a fixed income. When inflation drives up prices, it also drives up the amount of taxes we pay. Two things are really important, and your representative needs to understand these things. We need to keep taxes low, but also keep the economy strong. I will work to keep the economy strong by supporting our businesses, especially our established small businesses. Those jobs, those businesses create the jobs that allow people to support their families, pay the taxes, support charities, or support clubs like this fine organization. I will work for job opportunities for the people of District 24. I've worked for big business, I've worked for small business, and I've run a business. It's essential that your representative understand economics. I understand how the economy works. For most Tennesseans, this means having a job or enough income that you can pay your living expenses, buy food and medicine. Tennessee's economy is in good shape, and we need to keep it that way. I can help do that. We have to make sure our tax money is spent efficiently. That $52 billion in the state budget, that money belongs to the taxpayers, and I will always remember that fact. Roads and traffic are an issue people are talking about. I have talked a lot about the terrible traffic situation on I-75. The state has some vague plan to kind of fix this, but I want to see it become a top priority. It doesn't need to be delayed for 20 years like Highway 60 was. There was an article in the Cleveland Daily Banner, I think it was 2001, that said that project should get started in 2003. That's 19 years ago. We're already paying the taxes that fund road projects. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent in Chattanooga on interstate projects in recent years, but Interstate 75 in Bradley County is essentially the same structure as when it was built, except for a little bit of ramps at Charleston and a rebuild at Exit 20. But for handling the traffic that is more than 10 times what it was built for has been a problem. We need to find a way to speed up infrastructure projects. I-440 in Nashville was rebuilt in 2 years. Highway 60 is a simpler project. It's going to take 3 or more. Roads help our citizens get to work, school, and medical appointments. I recently talked to someone, went to a doctor's appointment in Chattanooga, left 30 minutes early, ran into a traffic mess, got there 3 minutes late. They wouldn't see her. Had to reschedule, had to go back. This is a fixable problem. Another question I'm seeing a lot from voters, it's what's next in the pro-life world, in the pro-life agenda. All the candidates in this race are pro-life. I know that, you know that. I've always been pro-life. No one has a monopoly on that issue. But here is what's different. We're about to step into the post-Roe v. Wade generation. I've read Roe v. Wade. I've read other legal cases about pro-life issues. I have debated it in law school. I had a professor, this was an area of expertise. He was a pro-life advocate, one of very few law professors in the nation. He contributed to briefs before the U.S. Supreme Court. There's going to be new debates on new issues in that world. I am the best qualified candidate to step into that world and do that for the citizens of this district. I also want to see improvements in our adoption laws, and I want to improve and support our laws that allow traditional faith-based services and organizations to help mothers and their children. People are concerned about education. It's easy to understand when you see the news and see some of the goofy stuff that's going on. Everybody that runs for office says they support education, and I support education, but I don't just support it, I believe in it, because I am a great beneficiary of education. But in Tennessee, we believe in liberty and freedom and the right to make our own decisions about our future. In education, it's the parents' right to decide what school option is best for their children. Whether it's private school, public school, homeschool, a Christian school, or some other option, that's the parents' right. Sometimes children need different options at different stages of life. Tennessee is providing a lot of new money to support education, and I support that. and I will work to see that that money is used wisely. Hopefully, we can see better results in our students and the adults that our education system is trying to help. Tennessee has passed a new funding law called TISA, the Tennessee Investment in Student Achievement. It will be implemented in the very near future. This will be a big topic in the legislature next year, especially as the various interest groups and lobbyists start trying to change the funding structure for their own purposes. My goal will be to see that the new funding system actually produces results for students. We've made a lot of progress in education. We still need improvements in vocational training. Bradley County's taken a great step for that, but we need to move that beyond Bradley County. We are fortunate here in Cleveland-Bradley County. We do have great educators. We have dedicated teachers. A lot of them helped me, and we have teachers and staff that care about students. Our governor has proposed and approved additional funding for school security to help protect against some of the dangers. We'll need to continue to look at those issues. People are concerned a lot about crime. Law enforcement's a big part of Tennessee government. You have the Highway Patrol, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the Department of Corrections. It's important that your representative be familiar with those agencies and what they do and the problems they face. Our local jail's having trouble hiring employees. The state prison system is facing the same problem. My training and background gives me a unique perspective in that world. I have a degree in criminal justice. I've represented citizens in all of our courts. I've visited jails and prisons. I've ridden in patrol cars with officers as part of my training. I've volunteered in our local campus courts. I know the lawyers, the judges, the court clerks, and I understand what they face every day. The workload in our courts is huge. This leads to another issue that we're going to have to deal with, and that's improving mental health services. There's too many needs that are not getting met, and people ending up in our hospitals and in our courts and in our jails that they're not really equipped to deal with. We're going to have to explore and see what other states are doing successfully and see if we can't make some improvements in that world. It's just going to have to happen somehow. In conclusion, and I have a big conclusion, I've tried to run an issue-based campaign. I'm not taking any money from political action committees or other special interest groups. If you want more information, you can go to rexfortennessee.com. I am only seeking this office to serve our citizens by doing the hard work of being a legislator. I will diligently perform the many duties of being a member of the Tennessee House of Representatives. I will listen to everyone, and I will actively seek advice on issues. I will be prepared, and I will be informed. It's an important office that affects issues locally and statewide. But I want to take a minute. Let's think about our country and our state. With all the negative news that's broadcast every day, we need to take some time to remember that the USA is a great place to live. People come here to enjoy freedom, the right to own property, and be safe from crime. Tennessee is a bright, shining star in this nation. Now people from all over the country want to come to Tennessee because of our qualities of life and our values. I will work to keep Tennessee on a solid economic path and protect our quality of life. But I also want to improve where we can and improve our quality of life. In many ways, Tennessee's in good shape, but I believe we can do better and be stronger in the future. When people talk about the United States of America, you often hear the expression, well, we put a man on the moon, so we should be able to solve this problem or take care of this task. Let me expand on that expression a little bit. The people of the United States didn't just put a man on the moon. We put 12 men on the moon. 12 men on the moon. We did it without cell phones. We did it without the internet. And we did it without personal computers. But it did take leadership. It took vision It took determination, and it took hard work. I will work hard for our citizens. You will send me to Nashville to represent this community. I will do everything I can to build a better Tennessee for our children and our grandchildren. Thank you for this opportunity. I would really appreciate your vote on August 4th.
Well, what an honor it is to be here. I've spoke to you years ago when I was the chairman of the school board. You gave me the opportunity to come and speak to you. I want to tell you, my name's Troy Weathers. I have lived in this community all my life. I have served on the Bradley County School Board for 20 years. So many people talk about education and experience. I go to Nashville and I talk to folks over there and say being on a school board is the most thankless job there is. You don't get paid very much of anything, and a lot of people take a lot of shots at you. But I can tell you, by comparing to Bradley County and Cleveland to all the other systems, we have got one of the best school systems in the country, especially in Tennessee. Tell you a little bit personally about myself. Again, I was born here. I went to, matter of fact, I went to city schools. I went to Mayfield for the first year, then went to East Cleveland, then Michigan Avenue, and I graduated from Bradley Central High School. I chose to go to the path of military. I went to the military. I was in the Army, and I think you read I was a tank mechanic, which I tell people when I go knock on doors, and I said, I am pro Second Amendment. And I said, I believe that if you want to have a tank in your backyard and you can qualify for it, you ought to be able to have it. And they laughed just like you guys did. And I tell them why I said tank, because I used to work on them. Kind of brings in the veteran deal. But that was a great experience for me. I married after the military. I went to work in Atlanta, Georgia. Got married. We have, my first wife and I have one daughter. And then my second wife, she had 2 daughters. They're just like mine. I don't call them stepkids. I had a stepfather. I don't know if you ever dealt with step, but I don't like step. Just so you know, I believe my 2 daughters, all 3 of my daughters are my daughters. And I treat them that way. And I think that's what you ought to do. It's a level of respect. But I've been very fortunate and very blessed. I worked with, the last 26 years, I was with Wholesale Supply Group. If you don't know this, we're a plumbing, electrical, and HVAC supplier. And when I retired, I was the vice president of the company. Probably one of the greatest companies ever, obviously one of the greatest companies I ever worked for, because I was there 26 years. But it was a great experience. Being a Republican, let me just assure you that I am a conservative Republican. I have been that all my life. I have never voted on the other side, never will. And I also, more than anything else, I bring common sense to this office. I was in Nashville several months ago and talking to legislators and leaders, and they said, what we lack today in Nashville is people with common sense. They may have the education, they may have the other abilities, but they don't bring anything there that makes any sense. And I think I am your candidate with a common sense factor. I don't know if you know, there's a gentleman, Dave Ramsey in Nashville. He wrote just the other day, he said, the folks who have common sense, it is so rare today that if you have common sense, you have superpowers. That's what he said. If you read that, I thought it was a good line for me anyway. How's that? But there's a lot of truth to that, and I think they say that in Nashville over and over. And I don't talk no more about myself. Let's talk about Nashville. Let's talk about taxes. We're all concerned, you know, our folks always can say, well, I'm not going to raise your taxes. I'm not going to raise an income. We're not going to do an income tax increase or a state income tax. But we have it it is our Constitution today, by the way, that no candidate can put that on a ballot. The Constitution says we'll never have a state income tax. So you don't have to worry about that. So if someone tells you, I'm not going to go to Nashville, raise your taxes, well, they're right. They just don't realize it's by law they can't do it. And we won't do it. And I will not do that. I think it's critical that we continue to have low taxes in the state of Tennessee if we're going to have the growth that you and I need. And the growth is so critical. I have always, on the school board, I always preach that, guys, we need to have good jobs in Cleveland and Bradley County. And let me tell you why. It's not for me. It's for my daughter and my grandkids. I want to make sure that we have great jobs in Cleveland, Bradley County, because I want your kids, just like mine, to stay in Cleveland.
to find a good job, to make a good living, so they don't have to go to Memphis or Atlanta or California. They can stay right here and make a good living. And that's my goal. It's always been my goal. And I'll explain how that was even a bigger goal for me. If you're familiar with the Pie Center that we are about to open up, we have worked on it for 7 years, the last 4 years under construction. That is going to be the game changer for Cleveland and Bradley County, and it's going to be a game changer for the state of Tennessee. Let me give you just a little small piece of it. Wright Brothers, we did a pilot program with them for the last 2 years. Last year, they hired several kids, but they hired 2 of our kids from Bradley Central High School. Now, when I talk about a pilot program, they did the program there on their facility, and they trained those kids for 2 years. Those kids took a job last year with Wright Brothers. As soon as they graduated, they went to Alabama to go to work for Wright Brothers on one of their jobs. When they came back home, one of the kids didn't have a checking account, so he had a stack of checks. So we got to see him. He had a stack of checks from where he had worked. There was not a check less than $2,000 a week. Did you hear that? There wasn't a check for less amount of $2,000, and he's 18 years old. Now, that is the idea that we have for the Pie Center. The companies that are coming in there, they're going to be able to say, Chuck, you're going to get to go through the whole company. We have operating companies in there. This is not like I get to go sit and watch somebody do something. They're going to be able to do that. And then they're going to find out what they like and what they fall in love with. It's kind of like we talked about nursing. Sometimes, I don't know if you have got friends that's done this. We've gone to college and we say, well, I want to be a nurse. They get in college and realize this is not what their cup of tea is. And then they spent that money. Then they start something else. The Pie Center is going to give these kids that if they want to go to college, they can. But if they don't, they're going to have some hands-on experience that has never been available to them in the history of Bradley County. So if you haven't had an opportunity to see the Pie Center, I ask you, when we have the next open house, come look at it. It's really going to be impressive, and it's going to be across this state. And I believe whoever goes to Nashville, that is something we're going to be talking about. Let me remind you that our governor gave us $1 million toward that project. We've had the Speaker of the House here. We've had other folks from around the state come visit. McKee Baking, they're from Ooltewah. They're not from Cleveland. They gave us $1.5 million toward it because they believe what we're doing is something they need to help their business. Now, everybody has bought into it. And the reason why is we're not going to be able to bring industry back to Cleveland. We talk about getting industry, but if you can't facilitate that and help these companies hire employees, find employees, then they're not coming to Bradley County and Cleveland. They're not coming. And that's why everybody has bought in to this Pie Center, because it's going to be the game changer of giving people an opportunity to find employees. So and we've all, and I guess what's amazing about it is we have all come together on this. Cleveland State's there, the boys club's there, unbelievable, all the different organizations that want to be a part of it to make sure we do well. The other thing that we do there in the Pie Center is our students. You know, again, everybody don't have a perfect life. So we're going to have everything we need in that Pie Center to help that child. Now, what do I mean? Well, what if he doesn't have money for food? What if he needs clothes? What if he needs a ride? We're going to have all those things there to be able to help those students to make sure they're successful. We're not just going to throw them at it and say, here, there you go. We're going to have counselors there. So it's going to be a great, great facility. I'll move on, but if you haven't seen it, I implore you to go look at that. Department of Transportation, I met with them 2 weeks ago, and we talked about the road issue. So let's talk about that for a minute. They are already, and Rex may have made this happen, you may have 2 or 3, 4 years ago, but they started working on I-75, the 3 lanes from Ooltewah to Bradley County 3 or 4 years ago. They just awarded the money to start the real engineering work 3 weeks ago. So they're going to start working on that project. Well, let me tell you what I think, whoever you send to Nashville, we've got to talk about. I believe that we need to go ahead and put an exit at Prospect. If we're going to do that, why would we not go ahead and put an exit there and make it all together one deal? So I'm going to be talking about that. And I asked DOT, one of the gentlemen there, why had we not done that before? Well, this is what he told me, and I called the mayor to ask him. He said, well, there's someone that did not want to do that because they didn't want traffic, big trucks to go through downtown Cleveland. I don't know about you, but that's pretty silly. And that's why DOT had not even talked to anybody about that. So when he told me that, I picked up the phone, called Mayor Brooks. I said, Mayor, what's the deal here? That's what they're telling me. He said, Mr. Weathers, that's not true anymore. We had somebody that was against it, but they're no longer involved in it. We want that. So I called them back and I said, guys, we want that. So I hope whoever goes to Nashville, we start talking about that, because it's a real true time. I'd like to say you can speed it up, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm going to get up there and speed any of these projects up, because if you know they have a schedule and they stick to it, don't matter who you are. And that's the way DOT works, just so you know. And then the expense that they have. Does anybody have any idea how much the 2.5 mile improvement on 60 cost? 2.5 miles. $54 million. That's a lot, ain't it, Jeff? $54 million. So when you talk about road improvement, money don't go very far, it appears. You got to buy property. There's lots of things involved. But this year, the budget for DOT is $2.4 billion. Now, that sounds like a whole lot of money, but when you're doing 2.5 miles, it costs you $54 million. There's not a whole lot of roads you're going to build. So, and I say all that to make sure I make one point. And us candidates have been where everybody's asked about this gas tax. Well, just so you know, it wasn't. They asked about 6 cents. It was 7.5 cents when they raised the gas tax. If you remember, though, they also lowered our food tax, business taxes, a lot of other taxes. But let me tell you what takes place. It is collected a whole lot different than any other sales tax that we have in the state of Tennessee. It's collected by the wholesaler, not by the retailer. Now, I'm going to give you a great example better, and you can drive just a little distance and you'll say Troy was right. Georgia, the governor said we're not going to have any sales tax on fuel or road tax, whatever you want to call it, till I think the end of August. Now they've extended it. So they took away the 35 cents. If you'll go down to Dalton right now, you'll find out that their gas is higher than our gas today. Okay, I was down there 2 weeks ago and I thought, holy moly, but let me tell you the reason why. Is they are not by law required to pass that on to the consumer. So someone in Georgia is taking that money and keeping it, obviously, because there's no way you can tell me their price could be the same as ours if they're not paying the 35 cent fuel tax. So we're paying fuel tax. The difference is it's collected by the wholesaler. The wholesaler could decide to keep it, or he could give a better price to the retailer, and the retailer says, I don't have to pass that on. There's no law that says they have to pass it on to the consumer. So it concerns me that we would just automatically say, oh, well, let's just go ahead and take that tax away, because we're in the same boat as Georgia. And then I guess I go back to my original point, is if we need some serious road work here in Cleveland, Tennessee. I don't know about you, but I'm amazed I remember when I was a kid, Jeff, I talked to Jeff because Jeff's out there smiling. When I was a kid, I remember Friday was the day that we all went to the grocery store, and that's when traffic was terrible. Any other than that, there was no traffic. But however, today, I mean, yesterday was Wednesday, you couldn't get through town. When I talk about town, I'm talking about Key Street and up that way, not downtown. But we're faced with some mighty challenges locally. If we give tax up that we're collecting now and someone else gets it and we probably wouldn't get it, then that just means less roads and more time, because usually, as former legislators in Nashville know, that unless you have the funds, they don't build roads. They have to acquire the funds. So we need to make sure before we go to Nashville, we make decisions that's not good and sound decisions for Cleveland and Bradley County. We understand what the results could be. Another question that came up, and I'm just addressing some questions that we've been asked, is mental health. Well, I wish I knew this when I was asked the first time, Chuck. We were talking about it, and my daughter is a nurse. And she said, here's what we are facing in Cleveland, is Pine Ridge is supposed to be our mental health facility, correct? If you don't know that, that's what it is. It's our mental health facility. Unfortunately, they are 14 people down on help. We don't have anybody who wants to go on mental health anymore. We've got to do something on the state level to figure out how we fix that problem, because it's a state problem, it's not a Cleveland problem. So what's happening today, ladies and gentlemen, is the mental health issue is moved to the hospital. They are now in the emergency room. Have you heard anybody say, I'm at the emergency room, but they said it's probably be tomorrow before I can get a bed? That's what's happening. And she said, I mean, she works there every day. She said, that's what's happening to our mental health. Our emergency room has become a mental health facility. So if you and I have an emergency, we may be in trouble. So we've got to address that fairly quickly, in my opinion, or we're going to be in real trouble. But it's help. It's not, we have a great facility. We just can't find anybody who wants to be in the field today. So I would tell you that that's one of my priorities. Here's one that we talked about, is truth in sentencing. Anybody heard about truth in sentencing, the new law? Well, let me tell you, it's probably the best law that they passed last year, in my opinion. I was there when they were debating it. Leader Landreth was one of the guys who pushed it the most. Is truth in sentencing, the state has now come up with 10 categories that are what we call violent crimes. And they said, if before July 1, let's say, for instance, Chuck, let's say that someone killed your daughter. I don't know if you have a daughter. If you had a daughter, they killed your daughter, okay? And you went to court, and the judge said he gets 50 years. Well, what took place prior to that is every time this guy came up on parole, guy or person, excuse me, came up on parole, then your family, your daughter, the mother and sisters, y'all had to go up there and beg them not to give that person parole. And I don't know about you, but that's the most intimidating thing you could ever go through. And I've talked to people who went through it. Today, the law says that if they give him 50 years, he serves 50 years. No probation. We took the guesswork out. They took the guesswork out of it. Now, I talked to Leader Landers probably a week ago, and he said, we've got other ones we want to do. That's not the only ones we want to do, the 10. We've got a lot more we're going to work on this bill this next year. It's critical that, and it's the first bill that we really said we're concerned about our victims. Not just being taken advantage of, but we're concerned about them. So that's an area that means something to me that I certainly want to look into and be a part of. Let's see, let's talk about pro-life for a minute. One of the candidates said that he was endorsed by pro-life. Well, I went and talked to pro-life. But let me go break the news to you. I'm going to tell you the truth every time, and I'm going to tell you how I feel. And when I go to Nashville, I'm not going to change who I am. I'm going to be Troy Weathers from Cleveland, Tennessee. And I'm going to have my opinion and what I believe. So let me tell you what I believe. When I go knock on doors, this is what I say. I am pro-life. And I ask them, I said, you know why I'm pro-life? And they look at me and I said, because I'm the 9th child. It'd be an insult to my family if I wasn't. I said, however, you need to understand, there's 2 exceptions in my world. The first I'm going to tell you is I'm a father first. And then I would be a legislator second. I'm a father first. I have 3 daughters. When you have 3 daughters, I look at it just a little bit different. If one of my daughters were violently raped, I could not be the daddy to tell her that she had to have or have not abortion. That would be her choice, just so you know. And I don't think that'll ever happen. And it's less than 1%, just so you know. So don't let somebody try to say, oh gosh, this is the worst thing anything can be said. And then also, if you told me my daughter or my wife was going to die because they was having a child, which one do I pick? Well, let me just tell you today, I'm going to pick my daughter and my wife every day. And again, I told pro-life folks that, and they said, thank you anyway. And that's okay. But I'm not far to the right, guys. I'm somewhere closer to the right than the middle. But I believe in families, and I believe people have different issues in life that we have to be considerate of. We have to deal with everybody. It doesn't matter if you're red, yellow, black, and white. We would represent you. So we have to be able to be flexible enough and understand that there's people out there that's got feelings. And maybe we don't feel that feeling. But I'll assure you, if you send me there, I will feel that feeling. I care about people. I don't know if you've seen my mail out. Someone made a comment about that mail outs are junk. Well, let me tell you, mail outs are important because if you didn't get to knock on that door, people get to look at them and they see who you really are. Well, there's a little note on mine. And you leave a footprint wherever you go, okay, and what you do in life. Someone attacked me on Facebook, said I was a liberal, I mean, anybody believe I'm a liberal, they've lost their mind, okay? But they wrote it that, which is very poor. However, what it did bring out, though, is this lady and you know how in life, so guys, ladies, that we don't really remember what footprint we left? Well, if you read my brochure, I asked my daughter contacts her, would you let us print that? Because she put it on my Facebook page. And this is what she said, and I'm gonna try to get through with it because it's amazing how God brings things back to you. This lady said, Troy Weathers, I was 15 years old and I was pregnant. You loved me and brought me to Sunday school. You showed love like nobody had never showed me love. You cared about me, and she said, and I'll never forget that. Keep on loving people. Now, did I know who she was? I did not. And then, you know, after you think about it for days and days, you finally figure out who it was. But there's somebody that you leave I guess my point being, you leave a footprint where you go. So I didn't become pro-life when I said I want to run for office. I was pro-life a long time ago. But I was the real pro-life because I really care about people. And I really want to help people. And I've done that all my life. I did it while I was on the school board. I've done it in private life. I've done it in business. So I just want to make sure that's clear. That's where I stand, and if you don't like my 2 exceptions, I'm sorry. But if I get to Nashville, if they say that over in Nashville that he has 2 exceptions, you'll say, yeah, I heard him say it, because that's where I'll be, and that won't change. Small businesses, we've got to, and it's already been spoke about, we've got to do what's right for small businesses. I owned a small business here in town. Almost 30 years ago. I owned a Quick Lube, and I understand what it takes to make a payroll, to have insurance, to pay your bills and be successful. Then I went to work for Wholesale Supply Group, worked there 26 years. And I was very successful there. I was a vice president. It's important that we send somebody to Nashville that's had life experiences. And when you talk about education, education's important, but I think I agree with you, Rex. There's all these other departments also that we have to be concerned with. So don't think that, it doesn't matter who you send up there, we're all going to be concerned about all those departments. Don't think someone's cornered the market, because that's part of your job. I mean, you get to vote on every piece of bill that comes to the floor, unless that's changed, and I don't believe it has. So it's one of those deals that you're going to be a part of it. So it's not like I'm going to be only on care about education. I care about all the categories. And let me also tell you that I have also, and does it matter? I think it does matter, and I tell people when I'm knocking on their door, when I'm talking to them. I think it's important that we have someone in the Southeast District that's on education committees to make sure that we're not doing something that makes no logical sense, because we have people coming in front of you and trying to sell you a bill of goods, and we have people that has no clue what's going on in education. Well, I've been assured that if you elect me as your representative, I'll be on Education Committee. Guaranteed, I have that one. And I think it's important, if we want to make sure that our teachers are going to be able to do what they need to do in their classroom and not be snowed and we send things from Nashville that makes no logical sense. Well, I'll assure you, if I'm sitting on the Education Committee, you can be assured I'm going to ask questions, and I'm going to test it, and I'm going to make sure that what we're doing makes sense, and it makes common sense. You know, don't always have to be the smartest. It has to make sense and be common. And so we all understand it, and we all know that it's the right thing to do. I would tell you that I would appreciate you all letting me be here. I could talk all day. I guess you probably figured that out. Jill's wife's looking, yeah, it looks like you are. But it's just true. I love Cleveland and Bradley County. I promise you I will serve us with dignity, with respect, and I will outwork anybody in Nashville. Let me say it again. I'll outwork anybody in Nashville. I'm going to take care of our people, make sure that our people has a true person up there fighting for them. And I'll just tell you, if it's not good for Cleveland, Bradley County, we're going to have to talk about it, because that's what I believe. I could tell you, I'm going to tell you a little short story, then I'm going to shut up, okay? Okay. I was in Nashville in November, and we talked, that's when I was on the school board. And I was up there, and they had 200 people, 200 school board members standing in a room. And we had about 7 or 8 legislators there to talk to us. And with that, one of our comments was, why in the world do we make all these laws, and then when we get back to Cleveland, we say, well, they did it because of Memphis and Nashville. You ever heard that? Oh, I have too. But we hear it all the time, as if you're involved in the legislative work, and I've been involved in it for 20 years. And so I stood up. And they made some crucial mistakes, Jeff. They started talking about taking school systems over. I thought, that sounds like a smart idea. So I stood up and I said, ladies and gentlemen, the problem we have here is you guys are making laws that affects us, and the reason we're told it affects us is, or not, it can't do anything about it because we had to do it for Memphis and Nashville. I said, you guys have been standing here in front of us talking about taking over school systems. Won't you do, it's the exact words he used, won't you do us a favor? Won't you take over Memphis and Nashville and leave us alone? Now, I wasn't the popular guy. I was pretty popular with the 200 board members, but the 7 legislators, they probably didn't like that. But that's the approach I'm going to take. I'm going to be bold, and I'm going to be fair, and I'm going to tell it the way it is. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry. But somebody's got to be up there and tell our story instead of going along with everybody else's story. I want them to know who we are and what we stand for. Early voting goes till Saturday. I hope if you haven't voted, go ahead and vote. And I hope you vote for me. And if you don't, vote August the 4th. I appreciate it. Thanks for giving us the invitation.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you. Rex, thank you. And Troy, we really appreciate it. Appreciate the time. How do we stand, Alan? How do we stand on silent auction? Are we okay?
We need more.
We do need more.
Silent auction items.
There you go.
We're at about probably 12, 13.
We're trying to get to 20, so if you guys can think of anything, I appreciate everybody that's already offered. We really appreciate that. That'll help us a lot. And don't forget, August 2nd, 6 o'clock, doors open. Please buy your tickets. We have 12 left and we're sold out. I appreciate your time. You all are adjourned.